Well, this is a Flagstaff, and you can see how we've already got it all wrapped. That's the way we do our job. All of them are like that, even this other one over here. We wrap everything up. We want to try to protect the coach. That's what we want to do. So we've got everything all wrapped along the sides. We even have a pad over the screen. We've got pads inside. We've got pads everywhere. So we're going to go up and take a look at this Flagstaff. It looks just like a reflection. It's pretty much the same thing. So if you look at the profile of the roof, it kind of goes up and then it levels off and then it goes down. So we're going to have to do this in probably about 3 pieces. But overall, I mean, this roof doesn't look bad. So once in a while we get people in here that just know their roof is not going to make it. And they'll do some stuff beforehand. So, well, maybe I should take some of that back. I got this here they put on. Must have obviously grabbed a tree right there. And then, yeah, I guess we got some problems. Okay, yeah, we got a lot of problems. But if you look at the membrane, I think this ripped up. I think that's what happened to this, like it blew. Just came right up, and that's not uncommon for some of these. But the membrane in itself, like, it doesn't look like it's all wore out like some of the other ones we get. So but a lot of times the reason why it blows and lifts up is because there is OSB underneath here, and a lot of people think OSB has a rough side and a smooth side, and I guess by the touch it does, but not by design. The reason why it has a smooth side is, if you've ever, you can go on YouTube and you can watch this, how they make OSB, and you'll see this big press comes up. And it's huge. I think it puts out something like 15,000 PSI or something. It's crazy. But anyhow, it is enormous. But that big plate that comes up and packs it all, in order, when they make the actual product, there's resins in it and epoxies, right? And they don't want it to stick to the plate, so they put wax on the plate. And when they put wax on the plate and it presses it in, now the wax is basically on the sheathing. Not by design, just so it wouldn't, more by default, so it won't stick to the plate. But if you put the wax side up, you can't glue to it because nothing's going to stick to the wax, right? Duh. But anyhow, and that's probably more than likely what happened here. I know I've had a couple of few Grand Designs that have had that issue at least. So that's probably, like I said, that's more than likely what happened right there. It ripped up. So unless he caught it with a big old tree. I mean, I don't know the whole story to it, but that's what it looks like to me. So, and then this is your typical moron. Look at how they got this color, that color. If you can tell, they've had at least 3 layers on here. And you can see how much it's starting to build up. So eventually it'll build up. If the product, we'll say it worked in the way they're saying, right? If it did, every year you'd be putting on a good 1/4 inch or something. You'd have a big old moat around here soon enough, and then the water can't drain out. So it just doesn't make sense at all. So we've still got some more fracturing up here of the caulking. The caulking isn't really designed to be outside. It doesn't have the properties in it to reflect UV light. That's why it keeps breaking down. And you say, well, why would they use that? It's their cash cow. They're exploiting people's ignorance to roof systems, and that's why they do it. Make that money. So you can see all the, look at all that cake. It looks like someone tried to seal it or something up underneath there. You don't want to seal that. That's just going to trap water. So I'm hoping that maybe it's just the bottom of the vent, and that's the, that's the caulking perhaps. I've seen some where they go all the way around and they try to seal it up, and that's not smart. So even like right here, you can see some more cracking and fracturing. So if you're gonna go, I have a lot of people asking what to use instead. There are companies out here that make this membrane, but they also make, like GAF makes a membrane. Carlisle is another company that makes the membrane, and they make commercial membrane, and then they make this economy stuff. It's kind of like Chevrolet when they come out with the Chevy Chevette. Technically that was a car and it rolled. Obviously it's the lowest in the low budget of cars, right? That's what this is. But you can still get commercial grade, it's called lap sealant. You can get that and go over it instead of this other RV. If it says RV on the package of anything, I'm just recommending you not buy it. We don't use anything that says RV on here at all. And this is kind of problematic right here. Underneath here is a base, and once these start compromising, then you get water that gets around inside. It'll get down into the tube, right? And then it'll get into the screws and it'll rot it out. Now this all sounds good. I don't know what it looks like underneath it. I've knocked on some roofs and you go, hey, this seems pretty good, and we open them up and you're like, whoa, it's got more problems than, you know. It sounded good, but it wasn't good. So we'll be getting rid of this antenna, and sometimes they'll have that antenna over here, right here. Here's a hole. They'll have that rubber boot over there, and if they do, you want to seal that boot. That's just their other way of putting the antenna down. It's got a plate in there, and you're supposed to seal it. We're going to be putting on a Winegard 8500 automatic is what he selected, so we'll put those on. I like those a lot because I can put them up on the stands, and then basically roof mounts, and there are bolts on them. For us, the installation is easier, but also on the consumer end, the customer end, if something were to fail on that antenna, you can just simply undo there's three legs to it, so there's 3 bolts. You come up there with a wrench, undo those, undo the coax, pull it off, and you don't have to seal anything. Nothing has to be sealed. You can just drop it back on and it's done. So if it did fail, you could get a new antenna mounted pretty quickly if it did fail. So this is the insert trim that they use. See if I can pop that loose. We don't use this stuff. And you can see it just kind of sits in that track. There's a track down there. There's a track right here. And that's what this does. This sits in it. And the product that I have will sit in the track and then over the track. It'll sit in it and then over it. And also up inside and then on the other side. So it locks out a lot more water. So a lot of times you'll open this up and you'll have a lot of like pollen and dirt and just debris that just gets in here. So, but like I said, we'll end up replacing all this anyways. So that's us so far. So we're going to open this up on our Flagstaff, and you know, those, when you start putting that on there, you know, and I joke about it, some people say you're being mean to your viewers, and I say, hey, the only one's putting more on is a moron. And if you think about that analogy, you shouldn't have to do that. It's kind of like always putting air in your tires every 3 or 4 months. You don't have to do that. You don't go around your house doing it. You don't go around your house, you know, recaulking your windows every 3 or 4 months because the caulking's failed. There's something wrong with the product, and they don't care because it's their cash cow. So, you know, sometimes you can just look at, you know, some common sense stuff like that, and it does look like someone tried to put some caulking on the back of that. That's what it appears to be. We're going to find out. But something else I noticed, like right here, if you look at this air conditioner, you can see that foam gasket underneath there. And the design of this roof, especially this roof, it's got a slope going down pretty good. Whoop, I blurred it out. It's got a slope coming down pretty good. So all that water and all that, and I don't know what year this is, but all that pollen and dirt and everything else will get right into that gasket. And then what it'll do is dry that gasket out, and then eventually you're going to have some issues because it'll be chronic, but it will end up drying out that gasket and you'll have leaks. So that's the whole purpose of the curbs. The curbs keep everything up off the roof line, That's what it does. And then it kind of redirects the water so it can go somewhere else instead of where you don't want it. So you're not going to necessarily stop water. That isn't going to happen. Too many people try to, you know, fight Mother Nature. You can't. It's kind of, you know, you can't just always take the credit card away from the woman. You just got to give her a different credit card. So that's all we're doing. We're redirecting it. So, all right, well, let us get this thing tore apart, and then we'll see what's underneath it and see how much damage there is. And we'll see what's going on up in that corner and all that other stuff. All right, you can see we got the roof thing itself off, and this is the way they just put it on here. There was a piece of tape right here to cover this Phylon from the roofing material, and typically that's going to chafe it. So we made some drip edge right here. That's what this is. So the way this works, we're going to call it maybe a protective edge. It's just a piece of metal that we bent over, got a nice hem on this side so it's nice and smooth, and that's going to protect the roofing from the edge of that Phylon right there. That's what that is. So we'll put that on. And then the other problem that we come across, this is a ply foam roof. It's not common on a fifth wheel, but this has it, and that's ply foam. So if you look in there, you can see all that foam in there. And then it's got the thin layer, the 5 mil on top, and that's your roof deck. And then on the bottom is another piece of 1/8 inch, which is going to be your ceiling. But the problem is, if you look now, you can see that metal that's in there. They didn't have anything on there. All they do is screw the vents down into 5 mil Luan. That's not going to withstand all the, the vibration and all of that headwind and everything, just shaking it around. Eventually it's going to come loose. And then when that gets loose, then the caulking gets loose. And when the caulking gets loose, then you get leaks. But that's just not smart. So what we did is we put a piece of metal in there and we sleeved it up underneath there. That's what we did. That's why you can see it there. We did the same one over here. We did them all. And the one on the air conditioners, they do have a truss going across, and that's all metal in there. So we're okay with that. But these other ones don't have it. So that's what we're getting all set in here, like right here on this one as well. And then we also have an issue with the ladder. The ladder they just screw down to the Luan as well. So now when you go to walk up the ladder and you go to pull on the ladder, it'll start coming up. So we're going to glue them, those plates right there, we're going to glue them down so we have something strong to secure to. But once we glue those down, I mean, it's going to stay there. That's the end of that. The glue we use, it's not something you're going to get at Home Depot or Lowe's, or that's some good stuff. That's what it is, good stuff. So that's what we're doing now. You can see over here we're doing the same thing. We're just fitting this to size over here, and then we'll get these slid up underneath there afterwards. We're just getting them to size. That's a nice tape measure. It looks like mine. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Why I felt so light. Half my tools are missing. Bunch of looters. So normally we would redeck this, but there is no rot, no D-lam, no nothing. There's nothing like that. No nothing. I don't even know if that's proper English, but anyhow, there ain't no problems here. Everything looks fine. So we caught this roof just in time. So that's good news. So we're just going to clean it off, and we're going to put our roof deck on it, the roofing, and we'll be done. But we're going to have 3 pieces though. You're not going to get this roof. It goes down this way and it's got camber. Then it comes up here into this section right here, and this section levels off a little bit. Yep, so it has camber. This one over here drops down, still camber. The roofing material won't want to do all that. It just wants to lay 2-dimensionally. When you start getting into this, you can just stress it out a little bit, but what happens is you end up getting puckers in it, called fish mouths. Because by the time you roll it all down, so we're just going to do this in 3 pieces. We did another one like this. It was a reflection, and this looks just like a reflection. I actually thought it was a reflection when I told them to pull it in the bay. I said, we'll get the other reflection at the Flagstaff. But same animal, the same animal. They're all the same to me. The only difference on this one is it's ply foam, but even the ply foam is all comprised the same way. So you either have an open truss system or you have a ply foam. Those are the 2 options you get. And I like these systems. They're good. I like a ply foam. I do like them better than the trusses. But these are all one piece where they glue and laminate everything together. They have a great R value to them. So all of that, and they are very strong. It's just when water gets in them, then it starts compromising. So, the sheathing, as you can see, like right to that hole there, you can see the foam under there. The sheathing is glued to it, but it's all done, once it's glued on there, laminated, then they vacuum seal it. And man, it makes it really tight and strong. They do both of them at the same time, and it just squishes it in. And like I said, it is a good, strong system. I like it. But nonetheless, you just have some other issues you have to deal with, like I said, like the framing and so forth. That should have been done. That should have been addressed. There should have been a better frame around there. So they try to make it better this way, and they cut corners the other way. So, but we'll get it figured out. And then they also, all of them always put tape on the side. That's pathetic. That really is. But otherwise, you know, this is an aluminum frame. Not so much a fan of the aluminum frames. I've showed numerous videos how they try to weld it, the alloy in these aluminum on these coaches, on these campers. They're just low alloy, so you can't really weld them. You put too much heat to them, they'll just blow apart. Even if you TIG them, they're just you know, if you TIG weld them, they still want to burn out. And I've got a aluminum spool gun. We tried another one on a fun mover, and that whole bunk on it, was a fun mover, was a Super C. And we tried to weld that back together, and he just blew it apart. It's up on our video. It's probably the longest video I've ever done. I think that one's like almost an hour and a half. So if you want to jaunt over and search for it, you can. I don't know how to put all those links in and all that stuff. I just take things out of the camera and make a movie. That's all I do. I've got a lot of stuff that I got to get going on. It'll take a lot of time to try to do all that. So, but anyhow, let's get back to this and we'll get a roof on this thing. We've got our roof prepped. We got all those pieces in the holes there, the vent holes, the metal that I was talking about, to make sure we have something to screw down to. And we got some protective edging right here. We got protective edging up here. We already got this side glued. We're going to roll it over. There's going to be 3 pieces. Up on the top over there, that's another piece. And then when it goes down the other side, that'll be another piece. This thing just will get all squirrely, and you'll have bubbles in it if you don't do it any other way. So we'll roll this over and we'll glue the other side. We'll get it going. Well, we are done with our Flagstaff. We put our stamp on here, but then we put those on there so people know when the roof was done. And if you ever went to sell the coach, or you know, someone else wanted to buy it, they wouldn't be trying to talk them down. And you say, hey, that roof was just put on. Also, when he comes back for inspections, then we can monitor how the roof's performing. We say, hey, how old is this roof if there's something wrong with it? We've never had an issue like that, but it's still out of curiosity. We like to know ourselves how old the roofs are when we put them on. And anyhow, that's the purpose of that. So we've got everything all heat welded in here. Everything is all heat welded. All of these curbs that we have are all heat welded right in here. Oh, we want to start off by saying thank you for bringing this coach to us. We appreciate it. We take our time to make sure, you know, we want to do things right. So we take a little bit of time to get it done right. And those things do take a little bit extra. You can see, like, just through the videos, how we put some of the plating in around the boxes here, so we'd have something to bite on when we screwed everything together, which they don't do that. At least they didn't do it on this one. So, but everything that we do here is all heat welded. Everything's all heat welded on here. These are curbs. That's what they are. I designed these curbs to form, fit, and function for an RV. But my background's really commercial roofs. I'm a general contractor by trade, and you know, when I got into these, I realized they were doing them wrong, and I designed this roof system. So all that said, if you were to go and maybe do a search online for commercial roof images, you would see everything is up off the roof line. It's elevated on curbs, and that's the way they function. A flat roof or a low slope roof, that's the way they function. So you just put them down like they do and put the screws to it and slobber it without self-leveling, it's going to leak, and they generally do. You can go through, we've got probably over 200 videos on this channel. You can go through and take a look at them, and you'll see 99% of the time the roof material would be okay. You know, a lot of times the roofing material is okay, but the issues we have come from, like, around the vents, air conditioners, things like that, refrigerator vents, plumbing. That's where they come from. So obviously we got to tear everything up to do the repairs, put everything back. So we got this down in 3 pieces. So you see we did a weld right here. Look how wide that weld is. That's a really wide weld. So we got that welded on there, and we got another one up here. And if we didn't weld these the way we did, then what would happen is you'd get, the material only wants to lay 2-dimensionally. So when you start adding 3 dimensions to it, you're going to have bubbles in it. It just does not want to sit right. So we just do these massive welds in here, but it's very similar to welding like 2 pieces of metal together. The difference is, in metal, you would have a medium, whether it's a welding rod or maybe wire. This doesn't have that. This just fuses together. So that's how this system works. Everything is all heat welded. I even made these custom little curves for the solar fan. Now, this is a solar fan that I designed as well, because when you get into the cooler seasons, even we'll say fall
or into the spring, right, where you'll have some condensation, some moisture, some dew that'll be on top of the lens, much like it is on your windshield. And then when you get in the car, you put your defrosters on to evaporate all of the moisture from there out of the inside of the windshield. Well, when it's on here and the sun comes up, the sun will evaporate this off, but up underneath on the inside of this, that water doesn't get evaporated out. It gets, that moisture will get, in the cold, it'll get condensate, and then it'll start drooling down, and it'll get into the roof deck. So then you have your inner lens in there, so there's no place, there's no air, there's nothing for it to evaporate off or even to go anywhere. So what I did is design this as a solar fan. So now when the sun comes up and evaporates this off, that fan kicks on, and this is the intake for it. So it'll go down, there's a piece of ductwork inside there, it'll go over the inner lens, obviously on the inside here, and then it'll get pulled. There's another ductwork right here, and then it gets exhausted out and it'll stay on all day long. So we can't warranty those. I mean, I just buy them, so you know, when you come back for your inspections, then you know, we check them out, and if they need replaced, then we'll have to deal with that at that given point. But otherwise, that's the objective of it. Now, if you notice this off, if this pops off, we also put, you can see that little black piece underneath there, that's a screen that we put in there so you don't get bugs and wasps and everything trying to build a nest up inside there. So if this cap pops off, it will leak right into here. So this is a plumbing, that's a plumbing. Take one of those and put it on here, because if these come off, it's just going to go down into the holding tank. There's no way this can leak like into the roof at all. It won't go anywhere. It'll just leak. It's all sealed. Everything's all sealed. But this one's going to be open, and it would literally leak inside the coach. So that's the, just got to pay attention to that. So, you know, as you're walking around the coach and you notice it, or if you hear something on your roof, you want to check it out. So all of these curves are all heat welded. Everything is all heat welded down there. And I've got this counter flash. This is counter flash. This is your flashing down here, this part, and this is your counter flash. And I designed these in here, so now as the rain is coming in, it's not going to be able to jump up on top. It gets rerouted around, and that'll minimize all the erosion effect. So you can see we don't even have any screws in here. These are glued down. I stopped doing the screw downs. You know, we did them for a couple of years till we realized that there were manufacturer's defects. I even drilled these holes out to make them bigger, to give some room for the screws. I even sell centering bits. They'll always end up a little fractures somewhere, so I just said the heck with it and I glue them down. I haven't had one issue with them, and they look a lot cleaner as well. So on the air conditioners, we got a couple of stands in the back. That just gives us some balance. And then in the front of these air conditioners, so we do have that same counter flash like I showed you over here. We've got that on the air conditioner curb right here, but there's a foam gasket up underneath the bottom of the air conditioner. So as the rain comes down and you're traveling, I didn't want the water to kind of trickle back and get into that foam piece at all. So we put this little metal pieces goes underneath the cover, and it goes over the counter flash that I was showing you on the other one. So that'll wash it down. It'll go below it, so it just washes out. And we've got boots that I designed over here. And these boots, what they do, if you ever have any trouble with that antenna, then all you have to do is just undo those bolts. There's 3 of them. Undo those bolts, undo that coax right there, and then it'll pull right off. You can just put another antenna on there and screw it down. You don't have to worry about caulking or anything. And those are all galvanized bolts. Bolts. Galvanized bolts. That's what they are. So the warranty on this membrane is a 20-year warranty. So and this applies to all roofing. So you know, people need to understand that when you go buy a coach or, you know, a camper or whatever, someone say, oh yeah, it's got a 12-year roof system on there. It's got a 10-year roof system on there. Okay, what they're talking about is the membrane, just the membrane, nothing else. So you'd have to prove that the membrane itself failed, and that's with, even on the commercial level, it's the same way. So that being said, this is a 20-year system, but we don't want people to think, hey, we just slapped it on there and, you know, hey, thanks your money, see you, bye. Come on back to us every year. So I'd like to see this come back in about 30 days, 60 days at the latest. I really like to see them come back for the initial inspection. That's the very first one, because it's going to move, it's going to twist, it's going to flex. I want to make sure we address every problem with this coach. Then after that, you come back once a year. So every time you come back, we renew it for another year. It's that simple. You do that for 20 years. So the manufacturers, when they make the roofing and the material, they don't know who's doing the install. So it's hard for them to guarantee the labor on that. But like I said, all of this is all heat welded around here. This is an exact replica of a commercial roof, like one that you would see on a hotel, an office building, a library, a restaurant. Same exact installation. All I did, like you said, I designed these curves and I made them fit, form, and function for an RV. So we've also got 2 strikes of caulking along the top here of where the gutter is. We got 2 strikes. We put 2 strikes on there on purpose. This gutter is glued on and it's also fastened on. So we got that on there, and then we put 2 strikes of caulking on top of that. So as you go along with a caulking gun, if you've ever used one, you start just, you know, squeezing the tube, you'll hear it pop and crackle. And if you hear a pop and a crackle or something, you just injected an air bubble. So now with all the motion that goes on with these things, if that air bubble breaches, now you've got a potential leak. So my thought is, what are the chances to have one air bubble over another air bubble? Probably slim to none. So that's why we do 2 strikes. So you got 2 strikes down here. And this insert trim is a little different. I'll show you what that looks like. I got a piece of it to just give you an idea what the other side of the roof is. So this is what I was talking about, the antenna. See, I've got it mounted here. All you got to do is take those bolts out right there, the nuts off of these, pop it out. You may have to bore this out. These do come with feet, but I take them off and I just mount them here. And then you may have to enlarge that hole just a little bit because these are 9/16. And then you can just balance it back on. If you don't touch these ones down here, it'll be level. So I have a plate that I use and a jig, so when we put it on here, it's all level. They want these to be within like 3% of level or something. So, but that's the easiest way to do those. And I'll show you the roofing. Well, maintenance on this is real simple. You can bring it to a truck wash. You can tell them to come on up here and pressure wash this roof. You can do that. You can come up here yourself and just clean it up with a pressure washer, or if you want to take some soapy water up here, scrub it down and hose it off. It's really easy to maintain. They'll come back pretty brilliant. I wouldn't recommend something with like a dye, like orange clean or anything like that. Some of those have like a dye or a tint in them that may discolor the roofing. So something real simple like maybe dishwashing soap is just fine. Something along that lines. So I'll show you the roofing over here. Since we got a few pieces. So this is the roofing that is a 60 mil. This is a 60 mil commercial grade TPO. So I'm trying to show you, if you look at it just right, you can see these little tiny squares in there. See if I can get it there, maybe able to see it in there. So there's a nylon weave in here. Here's some of it right there. And that nylon weave gives it strength against hail and tree branches and things like that. If you do get a rip in the roof or a cut in the roof from a tree branch, they're easily patchable. We just put a hot patch on it. And we do leave folks with a care package so they can make an emergency repair, and then they can bring it to us. We'd be glad to do the patch for them. And we also leave them a little bit of material in case they can't come to us and they need to find someone to do it, then at least they have the proper material. So there's another piece of that front counter flash that I was telling you about, like we got on that other forward air conditioner. So then the insert trim right here, this is what it is. This is the stuff that I use. So this, if you look at it, see if I can hold this just right. If you look at it, you'll see there's a little tiny groove there and a little tiny groove there, and that's how it fits inside. Where the normal RV grade is like this. So there's nothing covering this top portion. So the water can still get down, like when it's sitting this way, it can still get down into that bottom portion of that track. And oftentimes we'll find like pollen and dirt and everything else all buried up inside this track here. But the way this is, it locks it out on the top and it locks it on the bottom. So we don't sell anything though. We don't sell anything at all. We're just a service center. So I got to buy this at 2 miles at a time. You know, this one, and I also have it in white, but I got to buy 2 miles of it to get any of it. We don't sell any of the curbs. This isn't really a DIY channel. If you get some tips out of it, great, but it's not intended to be a DIY channel. There's a lot of stuff that we do behind the scenes. So really we put a lot of these together for the customer to take a look at and see all the work we did, because that's typically some of the questions we get when folks bring them in. Then they just, after when they pick them up rather, they want to, hey, what'd you find? What'd you see? And so I say, hey, I've got it on video. You can see everything that we uncovered, what we fixed, how we fixed it, and so forth. Also show some common problems you know, when you go in or look at a coach, you may be able to pick some tips up to know what you're looking for, so you could get a better price on the coach and not get snookered and overpay for the coach and then have to come into my shop to put a roof on it. Which, if we didn't put a roof on it anyways, you're going to need a roof. They're all bad, every one of them. It doesn't matter. If there's a coach riding out there that doesn't have my roof on it, you're going to need a roof. So I don't do a spray-on system, because a spray-on system doesn't solve the problem. You need the curbs. You have to have the curbs. There are a couple of videos on my channel where I have taken off spray-on roofs because they just don't seal right. And then, you know, since they don't seal right, then, you know, obviously we have to tear them up so we can get underneath it and, you know, do the repairs. But if the system worked, I would just go buy the machine. I'm not worried about the machine price or anything. When we did commercial work, we had machines. I had roll formers that made standing seam metal. I had recovery machines that would do like our building, those type of machines that would do that. They spray it on like a coating machine in a way. And that's all those other ones are anyways. They're a coating, they're not really a roof membrane. But nonetheless, what I'm saying is if it worked, I would buy the machine. But it doesn't work. I need to see what's up underneath these coaches and see how bad things are and get them fixed right. So you can't do that by just covering everything up. And again, if you don't have the curves, then you're going to be back to the same problem. So I try to design all of these to make it nice and easy, where if somebody needed to do a vent, they could just take that vent off and replace it. You don't have to tear anything apart, and you can reseal it yourself. When you do those spray-ons, they want you to get with them so they can give you some products, sell you some more products, so you can do, you know, get it all back together and so on and so forth. These you don't have to. Same with the air conditioners. If you had to have that replaced, you know, you could just put another air conditioner on it. It's that simple. Sometimes the AC guys that do take them off, they forget to put the feet on the back and they forget to put the counter flash up front. So, and those need to be on there. But otherwise, that's pretty much the roof system. So we appreciate y'all watching, and we try to post every week or when we get these done. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's more. Just depends on what we encounter. But thanks for watching.
So in our care package, we have caulking, we got primer, we have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. We got a patch, peel and stick patch. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, it will simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof, it's leaking. So what you want to do, and it's raining out. Right now it's raining, you're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you're trying to do, you need to get up underneath the roofing, like this. This is what we need to do, get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. You just squeeze, squeeze. You want to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Put some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. Just shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off. Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. So what we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You got another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. What you gonna talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that off because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around. like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. You're gonna take that, you're gonna go all inside the square. You also gotta go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. Get the fat fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. We put them in all the care packages. Get that daggone thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. There it is. Now you got the film. We take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That's simple. If it doesn't all sit in there, you can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we got that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.